Saints Panthers week 3. Let's go ahead and preview it. We're going to go break down the entire game. We're going to do all the DVOA stuff, all the injury report stuff. We're going to kick it off with a little CBS Sports preview of Panthers Saints.
1 o'clock game that we need to pick. The Saints are 3-point favorites at the Panthers, and the Saints. Boy, Pete, you had them, I think, number 6 in the power rankings going into last week.
But, look at that now.
Oof. That's shocking to have the Saints at 6. I mean, hey, this guy. He must have roots in South Louisiana because 6 is crazy high.
Well, I forget, but down a ways. I mean, but think about that. It's 3-0 when that incident, or 3-3 when the melee happens, and they went in the tank after that, and Tampa used it to surge.
I mean, Winston's got the broken bones in his back.
Well, and he
didn't have Kamara.
And he threw like it, by the way. I mean,
he reversed.
I will say, I think Winston has said that the broken back, the fractured back, however you want to say it, is not hampering his throwing. It sounds crazy, but somehow the fractured back is not affecting how he throws. It's not affecting any of that. Somehow, I'm not sure how, but that's just what I've heard. So I think any time you hear that his back may be part of the problem of what happened last game, I think you can go ahead and throw that out.
Back to
he might have broken bones in his brain the way he picked out teams there, man. It was terrible.
Pete!
I mean, he threw to how many times did he throw it to?
Look, here's what I'll say about that. Obviously, he's battling through an injury. That's a tough part of it. I just think you're seeing a bigger sample size of Jameis Winston. And how much has he really changed from the quarterback we saw in Tampa?
That's a pretty good point, Brady. That's a pretty good point, Brady. I think, and this is what I try and explain to Saints fans. I think we got a very small sample size of Jameis Winston last year. In that sample size, I didn't think he was very good. I know we are hearing a lot about the touchdown to interception ratio and the wins and the Green Bay game. People point to that. But I just don't think he was very good when you're averaging 120 yards passing a game in Sean Payton's offense. That is one of the most dynamic, one of the most prolific offenses ever. And Sean Payton is one of the most prolific and successful offensive coaches ever. So I think that was the problem, right? And I do agree with Brady here that I think what's happening is that as you see more of Jameis, more of these games are going to happen. And a lot of people in the comments to my videos this week are saying like, oh, it's only one game. Oh, it's only week 2. Oh, it's this. It's not. Jameis Winston, I believe I think he's 35 and 45 in his career. And in that time frame, he's had something like 130 touchdowns and 160 turnovers. Like this is who he is. This is him, right? Like this is Jameis Winston. This is who he has been his entire career. So same with Mitchell Trubisky. When you're 6, 7, 8 years into the league, you start to you're that guy. You can't teach. You can't just all of a sudden teach that guy. You can teach a younger guy. You can develop a younger guy, but it's much more difficult to develop a 6-year NFL veteran, a 5-year NFL veteran, an 8-year NFL veteran to all of a sudden be something they're not. I think the Saints fans and the Saints brass are asking Jameis Winston to be something he's not.
Turned it over too much. You see the big plays, down the field passing. You still see the turnovers. It was an issue coming out of Florida State. It was an issue in Tampa. It's why he's in New Orleans. We're seeing him play
hero
more.
ball. That's what the coaches all call it. They tell him all the time, you can't be a hero on every play.
He's not even doing that. Like the hero ball thing is, I wish he was playing hero ball. I wish it was a situation where he was Brett Favreing it. Well, not Brett Favre. I don't want Jameis to be embezzling $5 million from welfare money like Brett Favre is. But I don't want him to be Jay Cutler, or I do want him to be Jay Cutler. I would like to see Jameis taking chances, pushing the ball downfield, doing all that stuff. He's not even doing that. He's not playing hero ball. He's not trying to win the game on his own. If anything, he's over hesitant. And then when he does try and throw the ball deep or throw the ball to the sidelines, it's a poor throw. And the throw is bad. It's not risky. It's just bad. All the interceptions against Tampa were bad. They weren't like, oh man, Jameis was really forcing it into a window. It was a lot of linebackers catching it in their numbers, or linebackers catching it off of the floor because it was some fluttering pass to nobody. So that's I wish it was a hero ball situation, but it's not.
The check down, and but the one interception was a deep throw down the middle, which he puts it on the inside. It's probably completion. He just missed them on the play. I think the Saints will go in there and handle business in this one.
All right, let's take a look at these trends. So we've got the Saints are 0-2 against the spread. Panthers are 0-2 against the spread. Panthers are 0-2 straight up. Saints are 1-1 straight up. Winston, I hate trends like this. I hate whenever you see like Jameis Winston, 4-6 straight up, 9 touchdowns, 16 interceptions in career versus Carolina. Okay, well, I don't like trends like this because, one, it's not factoring in. It's factoring in more of Tampa, right? So it's a completely different coaching group, a completely different scheme, a completely different cast of characters around them, and it's factoring in a much better Carolina, right? Like, so that's 10 games. So go back 5 years of Carolina. 5 years of Carolina, you're getting some really good Carolina teams, some really good Carolina defense teams, and a lot of those players are gone. You know, I never understand those kind of trends. I never get that. Like I saw one this week with Bill Belichick. They were saying that Bill Belichick as a home dog is like 21-5 or something. Yeah, but that's with Tom Brady. That's with Super Bowl winning teams. That's with teams that went to the AFC Championship game. That's not with Mac Jones. Like those. That's why trends like that. That's why I always toss trends from. I believe in trends if it's the same group. You know, if it's the same unit, the same team, trends are fine. But when you start mixing up coaches and rosters and teams and divisions and leagues, then, you know, why does it matter? Carolina's 0-9 straight up in ATS in the past 9, so that's all of Matt Rule. Matt Rule is on the hot seat. This is the desperation bowl between the Saints and the Panthers. This is loser leaves town kind of thing. If the Saints drop this game, especially if Jameis plays poorly, it's going to be ugly. I mean, it is not going to be pretty. And if Matt Rule loses this game ugly, then I would be surprised if he's coaching the Carolina Panthers in November. I'll tell you that much. Jameis Winston, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions in week 2. Yep. Playing with 4 fractures in his back, supposedly not affecting him at all. It's just there, which I don't know how that's possible. I'm not a doctor.
Their defense is too good. Carolina has all kinds of problems, and Matt Rule is going to be gone sooner rather than later. You know, maybe he'll be at Arizona State.
Well, you got a lot of people you're contemplating at your alma mater. I'm a little concerned, obviously, about the Panthers' offense and what they can do against the Saints' defense. You're right. That defense travels, divisional matchup. They'll play them tough. At some point, though, I think you're going to see more out of the offense for Carolina. I keep hammering on.
I agree. I think Carolina has to be better, but I say that, and Brady says that, but we're not factoring in that maybe Matt Rule is just not a good coach. You know, it was the same thing with Urban Meyer last year, where every week you're like, Jacksonville can't be this bad. Jacksonville can't continue being this bad. There's no way. But it's more about Urban Meyer. It's more about like, look, same with a quarterback. If a quarterback is that bad, they're just going to be that bad. If a coach is that bad and that in over his head, paging Dr. Hackett, if a coach is in that much over his head, then maybe they don't get better. Maybe the offense doesn't get better. You know, I mean, that's certainly possible.
On the kind of home dogs and the success that they've had, I think this one's going to be razor thin. And so I'll take the 3 points. I think the defense for the Panthers will be able to get a couple turnovers from Jameis Winston, at least the way he's playing right now with the injury and what we saw last week. So I'll take the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate that line of thinking. I mean, like, I don't like betting road favorites in general. I think people, if you're a new bettor, I would say a good way to start is to try and find the dog. Try and find dogs you like. Typically, public bettors or new bettors tend to bet on good teams, so they bet on favorites, and they tend to bet on overs because they like high-scoring games. No one wants to bet on the under, right? So I would tell a new bettor to do their best to find me underdogs that you like and don't just give me 7 favorites. You know, it's easy to be like, oh, yeah, the Bills are awesome. Bills are going to cut. What's the line? 6? Who gives a shit? Take the Bills. It's much easier to do that than to say, you know, I don't know. I mean, the Panthers are at home. Divisional game could be tight. I'll take 3. So that's a good thing to think about when you just start betting. As far as the line and the total, I agree with Brady that I think defense does travel, and the Saints have been playing good on the road because I think they have had a good defense the last couple of years. I think divisional games are generally tight. Divisional dogs specifically divisional home dogs usually are pretty good, specifically times 2 whenever you're as desperate as Carolina is with Baker Mayfield trying to prove himself and Matt Rule trying not to get fired. And they do have firepower with Christian McCaffrey. The Saints do have injury issues along with Jameis's pseudo-fractured back. Alvin Kamara, I'm not sure what's going on there. That's a huge deal. Christian McCaffrey is on the other side. If it was me, I'm not playing this game. I think it's too tight. I don't think there's a lot of value in this. I would probably lean Carolina and the under. I just don't see a lot of points in this. I think the Saints are playing a very defensive style. I mean, it was 3-3 against Tampa. Carolina's not Tampa, but you get my drift. And Carolina just hasn't proven they can do anything. You know, like Carolina hasn't proven. I think the stat is Matt Rule has not beat a team in the NFL that has scored more than 17 points. So that goes to show how bad they've been offensively over a nice stretch of time. So that's where I would stick right now. And for new bettors, you always do the flip, so the home field flip. So if the Saints were at home, this would probably be Saints -6, Saints -5.5. That seems like a lot. That seems kind of heavy for a team that's having trouble scoring with a quarterback who has a fractured back.
Panthers in the points here.
I had a tough time with this game. So
this is one of the tougher picks of the week.
If the Panthers don't cover, they would tie the longest against the spread losing streak of all time, 10 straight.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights,
Absolutely.
the picks, the instant
Yes. I'll also say this too, that those were presented by Caesars, my favorite sports book. All right, let's look at some DVOA stuff. If you don't know what DVOA is, it's more of an analytical look at some stats to show you how good teams actually are in certain things. So it's easy to be like, oh yeah, Buffalo is really, really good throwing the football. They're probably the best passing attack in the NFL. Well, if you go to DVOA, Baltimore is actually the best passing attack in the NFL right now. Buffalo is second, Kansas City's third, Miami's fourth, Jacksonville's fifth. Most people wouldn't know that. So it's just a good way to get the in-depth numbers and see that. You can also do it defensively, which we will do. All right, so if we're looking offensively, right, let's look at total DVOA, so the best offenses in the NFL. Let's see, we're looking for Carolina or New Orleans. Okay, Carolina. All right, so they're pretty equal. They're relatively equal. Now, the Saints did have a total shitter last week, which dropped them from 4 to wherever that they're at now. Carolina basically went up a little bit, but not too much. Let's go ahead and look at passing DVOA. The Saints are... Yeah, the Saints are third from last, and Carolina's right there with them. So again, not too sporty. Was I looking at NO? I might have been looking at NE. Okay, yeah. Okay. Because NE looks just like okay. All right, let's go rush. So rush, Saints are good running the ball, so we'll remember that. Carolina's right there with them too. Okay, but there is a difference. So you're seeing 23% to 8%. So there's a market difference. All right, so let's look at defense now. So a good thing to look at here is that the Saints are running the ball well. So the first thing we want to look at is Carolina stopping the run well? Because if they are, then that can be one of those, like, they can stop what we do best. But if they can't stop the run, then that can be something the Saints can exploit. Okay, so the best run defense, so as you can see here, so we've got Minnesota, Washington, Green Bay, Philly, Atlanta. And then the worst, you're looking at the Rams, Indy, Buffalo, Jacksonville. Okay, this is flipped. I think this is flipped. I think when you do defense, you're looking for the negative is the best. Yeah. When you're looking, so in defense, that's important to remember too. In defense, the negative is the best and positive is the worst. All right, so let's do rush defense. So the best run defense is the Rams. All right, the worst is Minnesota, Washington, Green Bay. All right, so Carolina, they're not great. They're right. They're below average run defense. So that's good for the Saints. That's something good for the Saints. Passing, it really doesn't matter where the Saints are. So the Saints are dead middle basically in rushing. Passing, both of these, where are they? Carolina's up here. The Saints are right here. So they kind of equal there. So really the only thing that I can see that's separating them is the running defense here. So the Saints should be able to run on Carolina. Let's look at the injury report. This is the big one. So we've got Alvin Kamara is the main thing, right? He's questionable. His ribs, he's supposed to play. Jameis, he's on here. Jameis on here. You know, again, it sounds like his back is not an issue. I don't know how true that is, but, you know, how can I know? Alontae Taylor is out. Alontae Taylor, I think, is the second highest graded defensive back by Pro Football Focus right now. Let's look at this. Let's look at the Carolina Panthers. They don't have much, so they don't have much on the injury report. As far as this game, like what I'm looking for in this game from just a fan. Now we've talked about the betting side, but now as a Saints fan, we've got to get right. I mean, like, we have to get right. Bottom line, you know, Jameis has to have a good game, and a good game to me is not just a win. We can't just have like, oh well, Jameis threw for 140 yards, you know, like, and we won 13-9. Like, we need to see this offense do things. We need to see Kamara get involved. We need to see Michael Thomas get fed. We know the defense is going to play good. We know Carolina's going to shut it down and try and keep it close. Like, we know those things are going to happen. So we have to use this game as a get-right game. It's hard to on the road, but you know, you got to do it, especially in the division. You win away games in the division, then that's huge. We have to do that. So, and not to mention if Carolina drops three in a row, then there's probably some big changes being made in Carolina. This is a worrisome game. I mean, this is a worrisome game. If we go to the Saints, we look at some stats here. There's a lot riding on this game, you know, because I don't think either one of these teams has huge aspirations. I don't think either one of these teams is like, all right, we got to get this straight so we can go to the Super Bowl. We can go to the, you know, try and get the 1 seed. These are just two teams trying to figure out who the hell they are. You know, these are two teams trying to determine, look, are we actually bottom feeders? Are we actually two of the 6 or 7 worst teams in the NFL? Are we a couple of 4 to 6 win teams? Is that who we are, or are we better than that? You know, one team, well, they may not if it's just a total shit game. If it's 6-3, then no one's going to be like, yeah, we're out of it. But you would hope one team is going to figure that out. I would say, just looking at this, obviously, you don't want to see turnovers from Jameis in this game. You're looking at the average, so you want to see him pushing the ball downfield. You want to see more of a dynamic offense. Running-wise, Mark Ingham's been running really good, but if Kamara plays, I want to see Kamara. I want to see how healthy he is. And I want to see Dennis Allen's true intentions with Alvin Kamara. Kamara was great under Sean Payton, but a coach like Sean Payton can make a lot of people great. So I want to see if Kamara can be great without Sean Payton. So can Dennis Allen, and I've said this on these videos before, the mark of a good coach is a coach who can get the ball in their best players' hands. Right, so if Dennis Allen wants to be a successful head coach, he has to figure out a way to get the ball in his best players' hands. His best players are Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. So if they're on the field, it's up to Dennis Allen to concoct a game plan to get the ball in their hands. So I want to see that from the Saints side of things. I'm not too concerned with the defense. I don't have my eyes on the defense. I know they're going to be good. I know they're going to do just fine. This is strictly offensive for me. I won't be able to all 22 during the game. I'll be watching the game, live tweeting the game, but I can only go off what Fox is showing me. So I'll have to get the all 22 after and really break it down like last game. But we'll go ahead and look at Carolina before we wrap this up. I mean, the Carolina's is just going to be awful. Yeah, so I mean, Carolina's in the same boat that we are, right? Like I think Jameis was 6.8, Baker 6.8, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Jameis was 3-3. Ratings right there. Christian's obviously running well. He always runs well. 10 targets in 2 games. You kind of expect that. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe you'd expect. But they're not really throwing the ball a lot, I guess. I mean, he's only averaging 15 completions a game. So I guess it's understandable that Christian's averaging 4 receptions. So I'm sure they want to get Christian's targets up a little bit, maybe get his workload up a little bit. But again, against the Saints run defense, you probably don't want to do that. So I would imagine Christian's going to be flexed out much more into a receiver role. So I would guess I would guess Matt Rule doesn't try and ram, Christian McCaffrey into a wall. He'll probably try and get him out in some space. That's what I would do. Mismatch him against linebackers, try and get him involved in screens and in the flats and things like that. Get him in some space and not just running straight up the middle. So that's probably what they'll try and do, if I would guess. Baker hasn't been good, but he's proven he can be good when the chips are down. So he's always dangerous. But yeah, so that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring, tight game. I don't have a ticket on it. I would tell y'all if I do. So, yeah, nothing for me. If you do bet, again, remember, road dogs, divisional, usually pretty good, so be careful. I'm not saying don't take the Saints. I'm not saying to take the Panthers, but just be careful. You may want to find a different game. So that's going to be it. I will review the game after it happens and get it out there for you early next week. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, share.